Uh,
And we're live.
and we're live with probably me just going, okay.
Yeah. Here we go. Welcome to the Seattle Angels podcast. Some really big Roman number. Song title edition. We have what?
No lie, I was about to say which round we're on, but no, that's for the actual round, not the podcast round. So yeah, I had no idea what podcast round we're on.
Well, apologies for the we were rather short on staff. We had
Yes.
We had an emergency acorn collection task that I sent everybody out on because being a squirrel, I need those.
You don't want to see him when he's out of acorns. It's a scary sight.
Every winter. Some people get seasonal affective disorder. I get seasonal nuts disorder. And we have here with us a hoofful of dust as a special guest.
A hoofful of dust, which every time that I have to say that out loud, I really think that maybe I should have reconsidered that name. It's it's weird and awkward and.
There are a couple of questions I would like to ask about that name, but first order of business is the usual one. We had a round of reviews, number 114, and if anybody actually read those stories beyond the actual reviewers, do please say
chime in. Yes.
Yeah, that was I read them. I'm not sure that I remember all of them, but let me just find the.
Yes, welcome to the Seattle Angels, where we have our
special guest do half our job for us.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yes, okay, let's see.
The first story was "To Warm a Mare's Heart in 2 Hours" by Timaeus.
Oh yeah, that was the one that was. With the heartswarming, the second heartswarming. Yes.
Apparently shipping Commander Hurricane and Princess Platinum.
Yeah, it was cute. It was cute and nice and chippy and stuff. That's roughly all I remember about that.
Well, there was another story about Princess Platinum and Commander Hurricane. I can't recall the name, but it was more friendshipping than actual romance. And it was very subtle. I don't know why I'm talking about it because it's not the story we reviewed. But I just remember, I don't know why, but some people seem to have latched on to this idea that Hurricane and Platinum were a thing.
Well, that's kind of the thing that people do in this fandom. They just ship everything with everything.
Yeah, and once like one person does a thing and it gets a little bit of notoriety, then other people glom onto it, and then it just becomes a staple of the fandom, and then you find it very difficult to remember. Wait a minute, that never actually happened in canon, did it? So.
I think it's because Rarity and Rainbow Dash played the parts, and they're a popular ship. So
that's probably part of it. All right, well, I guess that's the first one. That's the second story was Ordinary World by Paul. I'm totally gonna say this wrong. Asaran? How do you say that?
Paul Asaran.
Asaran? All right.
Oh yeah, this one I remember a bit more about because this was this is part of a whole big universe that Paul Asaran is working on that has a whole bunch of detailed backstory things of the things to do with the Fleur being a secret agent, and there's a whole bunch of OCs that populate out this story and the ones that preceded it. But it worked decently enough on its own, so that's a good thing. Yeah, that was the body swapping story, but instead of your typical the Freaky Friday two opposite individuals switch bodies, you have a group of four characters who will get shuffled around. So that was a novel twist on what's a fairly predictable genre.
All right.
Very cool. It's an interesting mix of characters too. Trixie, Applejack, Golden Harvest, and Fleur de Lis. They're not usually
it's
the
not-
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't really pair up any of them as being oh yeah, of course you always see these two together. So
and of course, we only ever saw Fleur de Lis as like a trophy wife in one episode.
Yeah. So she didn't really get much background.
Do you remember her characterization in Ordinary World?
yeah, she has a lot of the work depth expansion in this universe here. She's she's a secret agent of some kind, very gifted at the illusion magic, and so she's obviously not the what a lot of the fandom would immediately peg her as.
Why am I not following that guy? Could have sworn I read a few of his stories and I enjoyed them. Well, now I am.
You find that a lot these days. There's just a lot of different stories and people out there. You're just like, why am I not?
Yeah.
The fandom's too big. The fandom's too big, and it keeps growing.
Yeah.
I know. Everyone keeps saying, well, I'll save that for when we're done reviewing. Story number 3, Teach Me Beauty, Teach Me Grace by Prop Master, shoving Charity in your face.
I liked around there.
That's what the viewers tune in for. that and my giant stupid bill.
Well, I mean, they come here for the faff and they stay for the stories, so you know.
Yes.
Clearly, that's what it is.
Yes.
Could have sworn I remember this.
Yeah, no, this one was pretty decent. This you have Rarity is sort of helping Cheerily prep for a date that doesn't actually exist because Cheerily is into Rarity. I like stuff like this that's just light, chippy, cute things that does something a little bit different than both of these characters like each other but don't know how to express it, and they're awkward for a few hundred words, and then they get together in the end. Yay!
There's so many of those stories. It is glad to hear that there's different spins on that sort of thing.
That's always nice to see variation on that. So.
All right, and finally, unless you have something else to say, story number 4. Story number 4. There's Something in the Woods by Hoof Fighting Action Overlord, and I remember reading the story, and I remember it very well because one, it's about Rarity, and I love hearing about Rarity.
Of course.
Essentially, is Rarity goes to find a witch in the woods, and at first you think, oh my goodness, something horrible is going to happen. She's going to get some sort of spell for like eternal youth or something, or she'll end up in a witch's brew. But it's actually a very good character building story about Rarity's generosity and how she's willing to befriend ponies that a lot of others might not strike as beautiful, because you would think a pony like Rarity, she's going to surround herself with other beautiful things, right? But no, the thing about Rarity, okay, I'm about to get into some really deep headcanon here, is her cutie mark is not just about beautiful things. It's about finding beautiful things in places where you normally wouldn't think to look. Because where do you find diamonds? You find them in dank, dark, stanky caves. You know, so obviously Rarity is going to see this witch. You notice it's not labeled dark. It's because it's not a dark story. It's a very cute story, actually, about Rarity, once again, finding beauty in strange places. And in this case, in a quote-unquote witch that is not actually uh, living up to her title. But she likes to. She's a very batty and eccentric character, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the interplay between the two.
Nice. And you said you've read this too, Hoof?
Yeah, this will be the second time that I read this because I read this when this came out. I really like Hoof Biting Action Overload and all the stuff that I read. And yeah, this was this is a very unexpectedly sad story. I thought that a lot about the expectations of like the childhood idea of what a scary witch in the forest who brews up potions and lives away from everybody else is going to be like, and actually examining what that is like with a more mature mindset. It's a bit sad.
63.
Okay, hold on one moment.
All right. Well, while he's away, I guess we can start up on the interview process here. So
that is fine. I do hope that the people who had things written aren't terribly disappointed about all this.
sorry, say that again.
I do hope that the people who wrote stories aren't terribly disappointed about.
If we have to, we'll go over those stories again at a later date, like on another podcast or something. But yeah, going back to you though, Hoof-ful of Dust. I know that's a phrase from a poem, but I forget what the poem is. You want to start with telling us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's from The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, and the passage, and I might get some of the words wrong, but it's essentially this: is there is shelter under this red rock. Come in under this red rock, and I will show you something different from either your shadow rising in morning or falling away from you at evening. I will show you fear in a handful of dust, which is this apocalyptically badass stanza from a poem. And so I always liked that. That always stuck with me, and that little piece of it, I always sort of associated that with the act of writing. You know, if you come under my rock, into my world full of shadows, you know, I will create emotion out of nothing, out of dust. You know, that's what people do when they write. They, you know, take something. You know, they take something from not existing to existing out of nothing.
Out of a handful of that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, fear in a handful of dust. That's yeah. I always associated that with with writing, basically.
Nice. So what specifically got you into Pony? And I guess we should also follow that up with what got you into writing for Pony.
Those actually kind of go in reverse, I guess. But so okay, getting into Pony is I around the time that the fandom really started to pick up, the beginning of the second season, I guess, and that was just seeing all of these people on the forums and messenger clients and things, just more and more these little colorful pastel horses just keep showing up in their avatars, and I was just thinking, is this all a big joke? What's the deal with this stuff? Like, is this really? Are people like are you serious about all of this? And the answer just always comes back, yeah, no, you should absolutely check it out. It's a good show, and I did, and it was. And 7 years later, I'm still watching it, I guess.
Nice. So you got in right at the start then. If you were here for 7 full years.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty early on. I think season 2 had just started, because I remember there being a big deal about the Luna getting an actual episode, and how
well, that was a big deal. Let's be real. That was a big deal.
Yeah, and the Halloween
Yeah, yep.
Obliterating so many people's headcanons about sad, angsty Luna sitting
That
on
was
the moon for
delicious.
1,000 years.
Yes, that was good headcanon explosion. We didn't need all that stuff.
Instead, we got Loud Luna, which is much better.
Yeah, well,
Yes. Loud and proud. It's the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as for writing, that's always been the way that I've interacted with fandoms, because I've gone through a couple before Pony. I was pretty deep into Harry Potter at one point, when the books were still being written, and that was fun times. That's all just gone completely mad from what I understand, the fandom. But that was like one of the first large fandoms to exist with the aid of the internet to spur it all along, because obviously you've had other extremely prolific nerd touchstones, the Star Trek, X-Files, things like that.
Yep.
But Harry Potter felt like really on the forefront of having a very, very global community of fans that was definitely its own thing, its own culture, not just all of these little pockets of fan sites that existed throughout the world, but a large cohesive sort of something. Not quite maybe as cohesive as the Pony fandom is, where you've got just these monolith entities in the fandom, like Fimfic and Derpiboru and EQD and things like that, places where everyone is able to flock to for the art or fiction or the music, PMVs, whatever. I've quite forgotten the point that I was making. The differences between what I guess 5 years of internet time makes, I guess, to a fandom, and it feels a bit like everything sort of after that feels a lot more like it's modeled off of the way that the Pony fandom is. That
that's sort of
if you're part of it, then you're part of this whole thing that everyone else is a part of. It's not it doesn't segregate itself very much. There's always you can very easily find out the place that you go to talk about this, to hang out with other people that enjoy it, that want to engage in fan works about it.
Yeah, that's one thing that I found really interesting with Pony, because like for me, this is my first ever real fandom that I've ever been in. So like I never known anything different, but like looking back and like looking around, because like I knew back in the day like Star Trek and Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and all that stuff existed, but like I had never like heard of like something equivalent to Equestria Daily or fan fiction or anything like that. So it was always something interesting to see like how this just kind of centralized itself, unlike all those other fandoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Well,
was a true phenomenon.
I'll tell you a story about the
Hey, we're all about stories here.
the Harry Potter fandom and the way that one of the big differences I think from the way that Pony is organized was that the big touchstones for them were news sites, because the movies were still filming, not all of the books were published, so it was like between the fifth and sixth book, I suppose, was like when it really sort of ramped up into the absolute juggernaut that it became. But all of the fan stuff, like maybe was very loosely associated with a couple of these websites, maybe not, and then there was just a bunch of other content nebulously floating out there on the internet. You would if you wanted, and so if you wanted to like read some Harry Potter fan fiction, there was maybe half a dozen large archives, and you could always just go trawling through fanfiction.net if you hate yourself, I suppose. And then all of these like countless like tiny websites that were just all this is all about stuff where Harry and Hermione get together. We don't want to hear any the pairings that contradict this. This is all about this. And then you would have another one. Well, this is going to be all about Ron and Hermione being.
Oh yeah.
And that like I am just so deeply thankful for how good film fiction is as a website, and how much the support that has for just like everyone to come there and to post their stuff there, and to be able to get feedback and critique if they want it, and ways to find what are the things that I'm looking for, and because I think that really feels like it unifies at least the writing side of the pony fandom, because
we had, I believe, even in our last podcast, our guest spoke on kind of saying FimFic's praises, and I think even now a lot of people don't really appreciate the real phenomenon that the pony fandom was, how quickly it coalesced and how quickly it found places to sort of settle as a group. I mean, I also remember the old days of like web rings and like all these tiny little sites with the midis and the flashy gifs and whatnot.
Yeah, the little under construction guy.
Yeah. And here, we just sort of take for granted that we have this giant website where pretty much everybody who's a brony has heard of FimFic at least once, and most of them use it or at least visit it. And it's something that I feel we really need to appreciate a little more.
Yes, shout out to Nighty and everybody else that has had any sort of influence in how FimFic is made.
Yeah, people love to just like give Nighty a whole bunch of shit all the time, but like FimFiction is 1,000 times the site that Archive of Our Own is, 10,000 times the site that fanfiction.net is, and it's not easy to build something that actually fosters a decent community with such a huge user base. That's goddamn impressive.
Yeah, you said you could use fanfic.net if you hated yourself. A lot of us hated ourselves before fanfic was actually rolled around.
It did actually used to be good at one point, but that was like, God, I don't know, like 15 years ago or something. So
I kind of started putting stuff on fanfic.net about the same time it started really going downhill. And I remember there were quote unquote forums, but the only thing I remember was this one forum that was like basically a troll group where people would run around and leave like stupidly huge copy pastas on in the reviews of stories, and there was no way to deal with them. You had to like email fanfic.net and be like, hey, I got this thing on my, and of course you don't know where it's going to. You don't know if there's any actual mods looking out for you. And there would regularly be like story upload bombs. Does anybody remember seeing that? Where like a user would just post like 1,000 stories within like an hour, and they would all be the same thing, or they would all just be like complete gibberish. And it would just clog up the page for like days until somebody got around to removing it. And that was fanfic.net, and we had to deal with that uphill both ways.
Yeah, it's the grease trap of fan fiction on the internet. It's all the worst crap just gets caught up there, and yeah, it's not worth sifting through just the mountains and mountains of garbage to find the one person who, for whatever reason, insists on posting their stuff on fanfiction.net. I don't know why people torture themselves with that.
All right, looks like we got ourselves a ferret.
Hi.
Yeah.
I would have said hello, but I didn't want to interrupt too much already.
All right, so we are currently interviewing Hoof-ful right now. We kind of got a little off topic there because you know how we faff a lot and stuff like that. But
seeing as I was the one who invited him, I figured I knew.
Figured you knew? Yeah, and then you figured you'd show up, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was facing you guys to handle it. I figured you don't need me to hold, to be there to lead you. I'm not your mother.
we don't need you to lead us, but it's like when you're like ready to lead us and then you just don't show up, we're like, huh, are we actually doing this? And then scrolling out, like, yeah, sure, why not?
Anybody. I just said I'd get people together.
All right, well, anyways, oh, hold on. Yeah, so
I just wanted to show my wife that I could handle some things on my own, okay?
Yeah, exactly. God, Core, way to undermine everything.
Oh my God, Ferret!
Don't ruin this for me. I got a good thing.
This is the one thing I'm looking forward to all week, and you show up. Okay, so anyways,
moving on.
So we talked about a little bit where you got your name from. We talked about your background in fanfic writing. What's I guess let's just jump to what is your favorite fanfic that you've written and why?
I'm very glad that I have an actual answer for this one. It's a story that it didn't get as much attention as some of my others, which is probably going to be the answer that I imagine most people give about what's your favorite story. It's the one that's called A Horse with No Name.
Oh
yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, which is this very not in tone with the rest of the pony universe at all. I think I had just very recently watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, so I was very, very influenced by the whole spaghetti western thing, and yeah, that was just a whole lot of fun to write in this very this sort of grizzled, weathered dialect, and to sort of be spinning a tall tale type thing. And
Very much
yeah,
that passing on, the legend of the character.
yeah, that was
He
a
lives.
that was a lot of fun.
And it looks like we just got joined by our wonderful Majesty C squared. Hi.
More people.
Oh,
Who is not dead again.
another blast from the past.
Hooray!
When was the last time you were on a podcast, Core?
What is it?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's been at least a year, at least.
Speaking of people not showing up,
Been too busy playing with blood and being a vampire.
With blood being a vampire, what? Oh,
You.
yeah.
don't
You're
play
reason
dumb.
for not showing up.
You know, the vampires.
Just
The
admit
vampires,
it.
Yes. All right, so moving on.
Did we discuss why every single title you make is a song reference?
Not yet, but I don't really have a good answer for that one.
Fair enough. I was just curious if there's a reason behind it. It's just you really love music.
Make one up right now. Make one up right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
we're not
mean-
going to know the difference.
Of course. No, I like music. I guess but like if I wasn't going to steal titles from songs, I would just call stories the stupidest, most long-winded things, or just very, very short single-word titles that don't actually have anything to do with the content, because I don't really think of stories in terms of their titles. It's just like the one where the one where it's a western, or the one where Rainbow Dash is badly writing a story, or
With the one where Vinyl and Octavia meet the devil.
yeah, that one.
All right then.
Yes, yeah. Like if I hadn't have named that after the song about the guy who meets the devil at the crossroads and sells his soul for prodigious guitar skills, then I probably would have called it, I don't know, charcoal or something.
Yeah.
Okay, another question. So since we're going from the titles that you kind of just grab out of nowhere, what about these cover arts that you kind of grab out of nowhere? I've always noticed that there's like a lot of trees. You like using trees in your cover arts, and I've always been curious why.
That's yeah.
And
Again,
it's in your profile description too.
yeah. Yeah, again, I figure it's going to be really, really hard to get an image that has a pony in it that really properly covers the tone and the characters and the whole feel of the story. And
Okay. Oh yeah, but then how? Oh, sorry, continue.
yeah, but trees. You can get a really wide range of the artistic expression from the pictures people take of trees, because that's like photography 101, or even like before that, you get your first camera and you go, like, a tree is a very easy subject to take a picture of. It just sits there. It doesn't move. It's naturally interesting because it grew that way. All you have to do is find the right place to shoot it from, and it looks cool. And
Or you become a modern artist and you put pants on them and go, look, I'm so witty.
yeah, exactly. You hang a typewriter from them, and
Yes.
yeah, that's one that I used as a cover picture. And yeah, so like the trees are a really, really common subject in photography. So it's very easy to just go to Google Images and be all like, tree on fire, trees in a row felled, and the tree in the rain, tree reflection. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be something.
Okay.
Cool.
That wasn't really the answer I was expecting, but I like that.
Hey, I'm quite alright with answers like that.
I really have no idea what people think of.
I have no idea what I'm doing. Yes, you're that dog too. That's me in a nutshell too. That dog meme. Hello. Yes, this is dog.
Yep.
I figure the all of the stories coming up, you just look at them with a big list and just like ponies, 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 tree. What's the deal with the tree?
So it's a marketing scheme more than anything else.
Yeah, he's noticed that really prolific, underappreciated author who posts tree pictures and movie and song titles.
The tree guy.
It's absolutely branding. It absolutely is.
And if it wasn't before, it is now.
It's a hoofful of tree dust, sawdust. Yeah. That's what it is.
I like tree dust better, personally. No, it's not sawdust. It's tree dust. That's more premium.
But that's what tree dust is. It's sawdust.
Yes.
Tree dust sounds more magical.
Yes, exactly. It's not pocket fluff. It's fairy dust.
So you have a lot of stories, Hoof-ful.
I do.
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah.
That's probably the fault of is EQD had like the writers training ground thing where they would post up a prompt after each new episode.
Speaking as one of the people who ran that, I'm sorry it died. Life got busy, and then my replacement was like, I don't want to do this, it's hard. And I'm like, you literally have a compiler. You just have to push a couple of buttons. What do you mean this is hard?
A couple of buttons.
I know. It is kind of unreasonable, I guess.
That would explain a lot about how the prompts changed at some point.
Yes, yeah, because it got changed hands.
Yeah, I did because I did feel that they were decent and varied in the beginning, and then towards the latter half were just very. Hey, there was a scene in this episode. What's up with that?
I think it was also just a feeling like people didn't seem as interested as they previously were. So we were like, okay, maybe we won't put so much effort into this, and it just kind of fell apart.
It's
also it's like hard to find space on EQD these days. There's so much new stuff going up.
Yeah,
my story, damn it.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with new stuff going up.
For sure. And I'm glad. Like, they originally started as just filler posts, as in, like, we need to post something on the hour. We've got nothing. All right, let's do story prompts.
Right, so one thing I've always actually been curious about you, Hoof-ful, is I've noticed in a lot of your stories, I mean, I guess some of it does come from the references to show titles, like with your titles, but you've always seemed to strive for that sort of like otherworldliness or like that sort of like mysticism kind of feel with your words. What sort of things were you going for in a lot of your stories? Like, what were you aiming to accomplish? And so, I guess just pick some of your stories. I guess you got so many of them.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. Otherworldly stuff. Yeah, I like writing dream sequences a lot, and magical, shamany type things. It's always neat to be able to write something that I don't know, doesn't quite conform to what reality should be. I guess I mean, like it might seem like music is my thing from all of the song titles and everything, but like the thing that's that I'm really into is movies. Very huge on movies, and whenever you can get across something that's more than what's more than what's being shown on the screen, like that's evoking something else, something larger, or tapping into something There's just more than the literal image that is on the screen. I always find that incredibly fascinating, and it's a lot easier to do that in fiction than it is with making movies and everything. Because if I had to do that, I would need a whole crew and the film and the budget and editing and all that stuff. But if you want to make people see a trippy dream sequence in their head, if you're a decent enough writer, you can do that with just a keyboard. So
yeah, sure. So what sort of movies have you taken inspiration from, since you brought that metaphor up?
Lots.
If there's any at all. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't. I couldn't. I mean, aside from the things that like A Horse with No Name is very obviously drawing from Sergio Leone's westerns and things of that nature. No, it's very much a general sort of just absorbing of film palette, I guess.
Okay.
It's good to have a broad view of things, though.
It is, yeah.
All right, here's a question for you about your stories.
Mm.
Looking through your tags, you write a lot of sad and slice of life. Do you find, like, it's easier to write that genre? You prefer that genre? Like, what draws you to the tags that you use for stories?
I'm not sure. I guess just most of the stuff that I end up writing just ends up sort of sitting in those two. I don't really think about the tags too much until it's time to upload the story, and so
you're just kind of like, I'm going to write the story, and I'll worry about what genres it is later.
Pretty much, and
That's
yes,
fair.
and so most of them just end up being, well, this could be in the show. I guess it's mostly in the tone of the show. So this is slice of life, and this one is sad, so it's sad. There we go.
Yeah.
That kind of feels like it. I mean, this might be me projecting a little bit with it, but it kind of feels like that. Well, that kind of feels like it's sort of that mysticism, kind of lonely hunter sort of thing that I've always seen him write. Is that something you would agree with? It just kind of ends up being sad and slice of lifey because of that, or am I just completely wrong?
Yeah, no, I could see where that's. I could see where that's coming from. There's probably a whole bunch that what I write is saying to everyone else that I'm completely unaware of. So
I mean, I've only read like 6 or 7 of your stories, but all the ones that I did happen to read always seem to be like that one lonely soul, kind of like reaching out into the unknown, kind of wandering beyond what they understand to try and find something more, sort of thing.
Or it's about the rainbows getting their tits out.
Well, I mean, I guess I'll make that number 8, but you know.
Actually, I like that piece. I thought it was a pretty good, like, thoughtful. Like, I read the description. It was like, oh, this is going to be really stupid. And I was like, actually, that was a really well thought out story. Like, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I feel that I had an actual point to make with that, and yeah, that was definitely on purpose to sort of wrap it in this very obviously titillating shell, and then have the actual the pun intended. And have the actual content be kind of mundane and boring.
Do you find there's kind of a challenge to that, though, of sort of, because it's almost a bait and switch, where you're sort of suggesting to the reader that it's going to be one thing and that turns into something else? Like, do you find writing stories like that is more challenging than other things, or not as much, or?
Yeah, when the opportunity presents itself, I think that's something that's definitely good to utilize. I think that one of the most powerful tools that a writer has at their disposal is misdirection. You sort of suggest to the reader that you're going to go in one direction, and and then when the pivotal moment comes, when the twist comes, then they're able to look back on all of the hints that you were dropping and seeing, oh no, wait, you actually were leading up to this the entire time. That's clever. That's very clever.
We have 2 questions from the chat. Exuno says, "Did I miss an explanation of what best ship is?"
I don't have a best ship. I'm a privateer. Like there's some things that I prefer over others, I guess, and some that I don't really get the innate appeal of. But I have been convinced on things that I don't like. So that's.
I mean, we love controversy here. So how about you tell us about some of the ships that you haven't been sold on, as opposed to some of the ones that you have?
Oh, haven't been sold on? Oh, Twilestia, definitely.
Why is that?
You're in good company.
Yeah, you're not in bad group wrong here. Most of us are kind of like, we don't understand.
Somewhere out there, Pav's head just snapped up like, what?
My people need me.
Because it's the power imbalance thing that not only is Celestia like thousands of years old, she was also like the Twilight's teacher and sort of substitute mother figure, and Twilight becoming a princess doesn't it automatically
has not changed a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't erase the inequality that they still have. And so if a writer skips over that or just glosses over it, then that's the point that I get lost.
Have you read? Oh, go ahead, Red.
I was gonna say it is a little bit dishonest to write a ship like that and just kind of like ignore the fact that Twilight does have this sort of complex about Celestia, that like she can't stand to know that she's disappointing the people that she looks up to. She can't deal with the fact that that they might consider her an equal. Like she doesn't really want to be an equal with them. She wants their approval, and she wants to be liked by Celestia and Star Swirl and all those other points she looks up to. But it's not. There's always going to. I think Twilight is always approaching it from the standpoint of, well, I'm the student, and they're the master. And I don't think. I think it's a little bit. It is a little bit weird to see people who ignore that dynamic, and a lot of them do in order to make the ship work.
Yeah, she has to go through a lot to cease being the student.
Do you think it's possible to write a Twilestia ship where that is sort of overcome, where there is enough sort of growth and development either shown in the story or indicated? Oh, I see how it is, Red leaves. Do you think it's possible? Like, do you think it is possible to write a ship where you're acknowledging all that change and development and still end up having a balanced relationship?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like the romance reports ends with Twilestia in the end, and I fucking love romance reports. So,
Sleepless is a good soul.
And that also had the additional sort of the speed bump of having like the first canon ending where Twilight ends up with Cheerilee, and then they're just like, oh, okay, bonus stuff. She actually doesn't. Here's another alternative, and they were both good. That's and that went through enough change and growth and development and all of the things that you want out of your the Pastel Wars fan fiction. So.
So what about ships that you have been sold on? Yeah, we ask the real hard-hitting questions here.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure that there's a whole bunch that I'd sort of read because it's that pairing. Twilight and Rarity, I guess, is not. But that's mainly because
somewhere Mono just screamed in joy.
Say something including Sunset Shimmer just to trigger C squared. Why do you...
I like Sunset. I like Sunset. She's the best thing that came out of the Equestria Girls whole side
definitely.
thing.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, Sci-Toy's pretty great too,
Emphasis
though.
on the.
No.
Well,
One
you guys saw
of.
that you guys saw that they're making the series now, right?
Yep.
They're not even full. They're all 11-minute. It's not even a show. It's not a show. They're
Yeah,
not
and it's gonna have
show.
choose your own endings too, which I think
Yeah.
sounds pretty adorable.
I'll watch it. I'm a gigantic mark for any sort of the alternate universe. You know, all of the things that you are familiar with, just slightly changed a little bit, and I think that's always fascinating and always worth watching. And sometimes I think that it overrides judgment of objective quality. But that's
It's so different and wonderful. It's clearly better.
yeah, clearly that's yeah.
I'll watch
Not a bad
it,
way to
but I
think
won't
about
like it.
Oh, deep down, you know you love it.
No, I really don't.
All right, our next question comes from the Barcast. How big is your dick?
Okay.
No, see, I'm personally taking dick to mean how big is your, ego? Because come on the internet, it's pretty much synonymous.
True.
That's fair enough. No, it's not.
But seriously.
Tell us about your massive throbbing ego.
It waxes and wanes.
What do you find really sort of increases? I mean, this is ridiculous, but for your ego actually increasing in size, do you find it's more self-motivated, where it's like, oh man, I love this thing I wrote, or is it more external, where somebody gives a really, really great comment, you're like, oh, they loved my stuff, or someone I really respect liked my work? Where does your positive feedback tend to come from that really means a lot to you?
Yeah, it's well, let's see. Me thinking that I wrote something decent is like a 50-50 shot of whether I think that whatever I wrote was great or whatever I wrote was terrible. But usually I'm more trusting of an outside view.
So for you, it's more other people going, "This is great," as opposed to you going, "This is really good. I'm so happy with myself."
I think so. What really blew me away was the multiple people wanting to do the readings of stories that I wrote. That just that blows me away. That people would pick out a thing that I wrote to read aloud and dramatize, and that's like getting fan work of your fan work. You know what I mean? So,
becomes a very repeating cycle sort of thing.
Mm.
All right, you've occasionally written. Oh, go for it, Red.
There was another chat question that just came up.
Oh dear.
Did we get an opinion on Starlight as someone who hasn't really written anything since she's been important?
Oh, I like Starlight. She's a real good addition to the show.
I have to admit, I'm a fan.
And here, Present Perfect is screaming in the background.
Yes. Suck it, Present. You're not here to argue.
She sort of fills the gap left by Twilight. After she ascended and stuff. So she fits into the role of the other unicorn, with being significantly different from Twilight's very the studious, they have to always do the right thing, follow the rules. Whereas the Starlight is
rules are a little more flexible for her.
she has a really recurring character flaw that is really, really interesting, with her just resorting to, I'll solve it with magic. which never works.
I can just brute force my way through this. What's the problem?
Yeah, this is
Have you ever seen anything wrong with like how? Because I know this is one of I actually, since I said mentioned earlier, Present Perfect's issues with her is like how she just always tries to use her magic to brute force her way through it. Have you personally seen anything wrong with that, or like how she hasn't really changed? Like I guess some people would argue quickly enough in that regard.
Well, I mean, Rainbow Dash is still fucking up the same things that she was in the very beginning. So no, I don't think that it's a problem too much.
Savagery. Goodness.
I mean, Don Somewhere did put out that video recently where he was like, Rainbow Dash is probably the stupidest cast member. So,
But I mean, he also loves picking fights, so you know.
yeah.
And like, but like, she wouldn't be a Rainbow if she learned things.
Brash and impulsive.
Yeah.
That episode where she blows up an entire factory just to keep Hank from hybrid. I love it when she does stuff like that.
Oh god, yeah, it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's gotten better about owning up to her actions, though. Like in the past, she'd kind of be like, "What do you mean I'm in trouble? I didn't do anything wrong. You're stupid." Now she's kind of like, "Okay, yeah, I guess I did really blow it."
She still blows it, but at least she shows.
Oh yeah, she still totally blows it, but she's a little more self-aware after the fact.
Well, Rainbow Dash doesn't blow anything because she's a lesbian. Remember?
This is true. That was like an amazing post I saw the other day that was somebody who's like working at a sexual health clinic, and a girl came in and she said, you know, what birth control are you using? She said, oh, I have the most effective birth control ever. And the staffer goes, I mean, no birth control is 100% effective at preventing pregnancy. And the girl goes, mine is. What's it called? Lesbianism.
Or just my personality, you know. I've seen that one too.
Oh yeah. I still
But,
love this one.
We kind of railroad off to Rainbow Dash. Did you have anything more to say about Starlight in that regard, though?
Yeah, absolutely.
I really like the continuing friendship that she has with Trixie.
Oh yeah.
And like not just for the extra appearances of the great and powerful one for through the show. Like I think that it's genuinely interesting that she's such close friends with someone who Twilight still doesn't like very much. And I think if and when I write something again, there's definitely something there with that little triangle. Unless of course the show gets to it first by doing a bottle episode where Twilight and Trixie get stuck in the equivalent of the bank vault from the Lucy show, and just get to yell at each other for 20 minutes, and then make up in the last two. Because I genuinely think that the show could legitimately do that as a proper actual episode, and
I can see that working.
What would you see the moral of that episode being?
Yeah.
Probably that it's okay to have your friends have friends that you don't necessarily care for. It's has the show touched on that before?
Actually,
I'm not 100% sure.
I feel like they did a bit with Gilda.
No, actually,
Okay.
keep friends with big or keep Discord or wow. The one where they go to the gal. There we go. Yeah, with the smooths.
With the
that's
smooths
true.
And her Discord can't stand Fluttershy's hippie friend. Yeah.
Yes, tree hugger.
And then there was the one with Sunburst recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
also
behind.
true.
Well, you haven't seen the new episodes yet, Ferret?
Not yet, no.
Oh my god, go do that right now.
I watched. We've been so busy.
You're missing out on so much.
I know.
Well, I mean, the entire season's been badass, but these last 4 episodes have just literally knocked it out of the park.
That's what I've heard. I watch them with my best friend, and we've both been too busy to actually like sit down and watch them.
Go get you, like, just go ahead and walk away right now. Go get your best friend. And just go do that shit.
I get that I'm crushing your buzz and coming in here and helping out and stuff.
You really
That
are
being
crushing
said,
my
I'm not
buzz
going
because
away.
I have been too busy leading this podcast to go get more beer, and that is a problem.
Then go get your beer. We can live without you.
Oh,
We can
wow.
talk about the good ship lifestyle because it's one of my favorite stories.
Oh, that, yeah.
Actually,
That's
Ferret, did you real quick? Did you read any of the 4 stories over for our review this last week?
Let me double check.
I mean,
Did we not talk about them yet?
We did, but I mean, it was just kind of basically Hoof-ful talking about them by himself because I mean, me and Tor weren't on that round. So
my very rambling, unprepared remarks, which basically boiled down to, well, I read these, and hoof-biting action overload is a good writer. Go read their stuff.
Yeah, Timaeus is good too. I have not read those stories recently enough to talk about them. I usually try and like reskim it to sort of re-cement. So no, I can't. I'm sorry. Well, I'll have to just go with Dust just rambling about it.
yes,
That's fine.
Which sounds like it went well anyway. So yeah, what happened? What is the story behind Good Ship Lifestyle? What made you look at Cheerily and go, you know what? I totally need to have everybody razz that mare about being single.
It was that there's what episode is it in? It's definitely one of the earlier ones. It must be in.
Was it the Cutie Mark episode where they do the love poison?
It must be that one where the Crusaders are just shocked beyond belief that Cheerily doesn't have doesn't have a special sun pony, and there's just that frame where she's turned away and facing the camera, and it's just like fucking kids, like
What the heck, guys? It's okay.
Sweetie Belle was like, "You don't have a special sun pony, Cheerily," and Cheerily is looking away like.
And just the ear droop.
Yeah, she's like, I'll find someone when I find someone, mother. I mean, Sweetie Belle.
Yeah, exactly. Get off my case already, God.
Yes.
And that was probably the seed for that story, and then combined with the fandom's natural desire to ship everyone with everyone else, then. Yeah, that just becomes, well, we'd write a very silly story about Cheerily being the only single pony within a 1 billion-mile radius, and everyone being deeply, deeply affronted by this. And I also got to make that the riff on no, I'm Spartacus. No, I'm Spartacus with all of the various ponies who are dating Rainbow Dash, because ship her with everything, including the kitchen sink.
This is a good policy. Rainbow Dash X Kitchen Sink is one of my favorite ships. Because I think it was like the first crack ship I ever read, and it just really stuck with me.
Yeah, that's a very seminal, silly story in the fandom.
Yes. Well, it's just how seriously it ends up taking itself. Like, it just starts out so goofy, and then it's like, okay, you know what? Let's actually do this. Let's, stick down and do this ship seriously, even though, half of it is an inanimate object.
I think that actually makes the off the wall gonzo premises like that a lot funnier, because it's very easy to set up your doofy premise in the title of the story, and then just have it be hey, look at how insane this is, isn't this crazy? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it becomes a pony does X story.
Yeah, for
what should I take? So bad.
Like the story where Rainbow Dash like shipping was about Rainbow Dash getting sexual gratification for being put in a box and literally shipped somewhere.
I totally didn't read that, and somehow I'm not super sad. I mean, it sounds funny, but it doesn't sound like it would hold up for very much.
Yeah, it was
exactly.
like 500 words or something.
Oh, that's not so bad. It's just so often you get stories that are like, this is an amusing concept that's about 1,000 words worth of funny, and we're going to put it in 6,000 words. And then I'm just kind of like, oh.
Yeah, but a lot of those things, they're like the Onion headlines.
Mhm.
You know, all you need is the headline. Really, you don't need
Yeah.
you don't need the rest of it. So to actually take it seriously and use all of that, all of the time you have in the writing to actually examine, clinically and logically, just how ridiculous this is.
I just-
That's,
I just found it. I'm gonna link it.
Excellent.
Oh God.
for everyone who's not aware of this nonsense.
Yes.
I think I will remain ignorant.
I will
What happens when Rainbow
take
Dash
this
is
risk and
shipped
read it.
with the concept of shipping itself? Heck, I'll post it in the YouTube chat too.
Serious look at a parody-like concept. Yeah, it's only 2,500 words. By the author Slag. There are a lot of things wrong with me, but there are a few things right.
Any more questions for Hoof-ful?
See, you've been
Ooh.
quiet. Ask him a question.
Yeah, come on,
totally
Z.
quiet. Come on now.
Participate, Your Majesty.
Could be anything.
I participate.
You could
by
ask him what he
providing-
thinks of your current reign.
I just participate by allowing Cole to make jokes about me.
This is fair. All right.
Did we,
How about...
wait, did we ever actually ask him who best pony is?
Ooh.
Oh my God, we didn't ask him that?
Hoof-ful, who is best
We're
pony?
falling behind. Jeez, Core.
Pony.
That's that's an easy one to
Hey,
answer.
this is me picking up your slack here, Ferret. Okay, this is supposed to be your job.
All right. Best pony is... Drum roll.
Yeah, no, that's an easy one to answer. That's Rarity. Rarity is best pony.
Yeah, I figured.
Why is Rarity best pony? Tell us more.
There's there's so
My man.
there's so much depth to her that doesn't necessarily need to be there in that character archetype. And I could be wrong about this, but I think from like the development of the show and like the very early stages of getting it put together, I seem to remember reading somewhere that Rarity was like a late addition or one of someone from higher up basically told Law Enforced, you need to put in a character who is going to be girly and wear pretty dresses and everything, essentially, and add them to the roster of your characters, and it feels like that command was sort of met with like, okay, challenge accepted.
Yeah.
We're going to make this girly, pretty, prissy character, and she's going to be fucking awesome.
She is going to be amazing, and you're going to love it.
And so you have Rarity consistently has these really strong episodes where she's subverting things that are seen as very traditionally feminine and therefore traditionally weak and everything, like the Diamond Dogs episode, and things like that, where everyone's worrying about oh no, how is Rarity going to be coping in this terrible situation? She's so ill suited for it, and meanwhile she just
Has them
has
completely
everything.
under control.
Conquers the
completely.
freaking world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have the supermodel episodes where Fluttershy is a
Green isn't
supermodel.
your color.
Yeah, that has some very pointed things to say about the fashion industry. The episode with Coco Pamel as well is a bit like that, and the why can't I remember the goddamn names of all the episodes? The one with Rules of Rarity in it. That's a very consistent theme with her. It's
Sassy Saddles.
but yeah, just because you fit into this archetype, it doesn't make her any less than the smart girl archetype, or the tough tomboyish girl archetype, which have been very promoted as well. This is the way that you can be a girl and still be cool. Rarity is very much all the things that girls were traditionally told that they could be, and she rocks at it. So that's great. She's great.
I like Rarity as well because I feel like she really does kind of subvert the trope. It's, yes, I like fashion. I also run my own business and design all of my own stuff. Yes, I don't like getting dirty, but when I have to, I will destroy you. So I kind of like that as well. I could absolutely see Rarity being a late game addition. That Faust kind of went, okay, fine, I'll include her, but I'm going to do it on my terms, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's how, because like the other the other ponies, they're based off of like ones that existed in previous generations, and as part of
Firefly, Kimono, and such.
Yeah, but I don't think that Rarity was part of that. I think that she sort of came in after the fact.
There was a Rarity previously, but she was a little kid and she was a princess, in quotation marks.
I think I vaguely knew that.
And was pretty just generic, happy, bouncy little kid. And I mean, the original Rainbow Dash was, Rainbow Dash always dresses in style, darling. So she's kind of an amalgamation of a few different characters, as opposed to like a straight up porting, I think.
I think what could be said the most about Rarity is that she has passion about things that you don't really find in other characters like her. Because like a lot of other shows, kid shows, a character like Rarity would just be like, tee pretty dresses and stuff. That you could just kind of tell there's really nothing behind it. They're just sort of rattling off lines about, let's fly at the castle. My mane is so pretty. And yada, yada, yada. But
the episode this season where the Rarity's mane got all messed up. That's a genuine deep cutting issue for her. This screws up her way of presentation, her way of being, her whole the entire, like, the root of her confidence almost.
And then we get best punk ever. All right, I want to talk some more about your stories, specifically The End of the World as We Know It, and I Feel Fine. What exactly...
Which one is that?
That is Big Macintosh becomes host to the will of an ancient eldritch necromancer. Yeah. Nothing changes.
That's right. I don't like that. I don't like that one very much, actually.
Oh, why not?
I don't know. That one I...
Okay, here's a better question for you. What do you think is your weakest story? Like, what have you written that you really look at and go, ugh?
It's probably the first thing that I have uploaded, which is like just pretty El Generico ship thing.
Do you love an apple?
Thing, yeah, that was sort of me getting my bearings with can I write in this universe type thing, and I think that has the least redeeming qualities, I think I would say.
Any particular reason for that? Just you feel it was weak because you don't feel like you knew what you were doing, or something else entirely?
Yeah, it was much more of a yeah, I don't know, going into writing for this universe without a whole bunch of confidence behind it, and how much I'm comfortable with the straying away from what the default tone is. That sort of thing.
That's entirely fair. Do you feel like there was kind of a turning point when you were writing where you sort of went, like, do you think after writing that first story you sort of went, okay, I definitely feel like I can write in this universe, I know what I'm doing now? Like, was there ever that sort of moment for you?
I Probably. Yeah, there would have been. Yeah. Yeah, there's
It's just when it was so long ago.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, no, that would be the one with Twilight and Rainbow, and there's a ghost story, and it has multiple chapters and things, and yeah, that has a lot of different layers to the story. You know, there's world building and there's character interaction stuff, and yeah, I feel like that was definitely okay. Yeah, I 100% have an idea of what this world is like, and also what sort of things I want to inject into it.
Interesting. This is the part where you guys ask questions too. I take it back. We have one from the chat. Exuno again says, "What other non-pony stuff have you written?"
I've written stuff for Harry Potter, which was the fandom that I was a part of previously, and I used to be like so on point with the Harry Potter trivia and everything. I've forgotten most of
So
it.
you've read all of My Immortal?
that is the whatever the written equivalent of performance art is. My Immortal is that. It's brilliant.
There was a big blow up about it recently when the author kind of came out and said, "Guys, this was meant to be a parody." And everybody went, "What?"
Like of course it is. Like how do people think that that's legitimate? Like that and the whole sort of like sub story about the author and yeah, that I don't know, they were in a psych ward or something, and they were just writing this very elaborate, terrible story. I don't want to live in the world where that's all supposed to be taken 100% at face value.
That is clearly the bad universe.
It definitely is.
So what's your take on Maud Pie? Because you've written about her at least once or twice. Like, what's your opinion? Because a lot of you seem to sort of vary. You don't seem to stick to sort of one set of characters. Like, you'll write about original characters, you'll write about the main six, you'll write about background characters. Do you sort of have a group that you prefer writing for, or it's more dependent on who the story calls for?
It's definitely who the story calls for. I mean, there's members of the main six that I like writing more for, I guess, because I like their voice better. But and Maud is an interesting one. I like the very, very deep contrast that she is with Pinky, and to just think about those two, and that they have a close relationship, and just sort of thinking, well, how does that work when they're such polar opposites, and just exploring that a little bit. That's interesting. I may also identify with Maud a little bit because she's very stoic and monotone, which is what I am like most of the time. So.
Really? You strike me as more of a Pinkie Pie.
I was going to say, you come across as pretty upbeat, honestly. Your voice actually has, different tones and ranges to it.
No, that's all an act. Pinky is.
Pinky's sure you're not more on a limestone. You're just secretly hiding your inner rage.
I mean, aren't we all a little bit limestone on the inside?
No, I have a very, very hard time with sort of finding the right sort of voice for Pinky whenever I sort of am forced to write her because of reasons that the plot demands it. But I think a lot of that comes from that Pinky is a character who is supposed to exist in a visual medium. You know, she is like directly descended from Bugs Bunny and Pepe Le Pew, and you know, all of her repertoire is the visual gags, and the speaking extremely rapidly thing is very, very difficult to replicate in text, and it's really, really grating when it's done poorly, and I just don't ever really want to do that, especially poorly. So a lot of the time when I end up writing something that calls for all of the main six, Pinky is usually oddly silent or doing something else in the background for some
eating
reason.
very, very sticky toffee all the time.
Well, I think it's time for the most important question,
Uh-oh.
which I posed in the description of the podcast. How exactly does one hold a hoof full of dust?
Yeah,
And can you squeeze it too hard?
I have no idea how the pony hooves are meant to work. They can pick up objects, and that's good enough for me. You can apparently play instruments with them. Apparently,
Pianos.
You know, pianos, guitars. So I just figure, well, they can do everything that hands can do, and don't think about it too much beyond that.
I always like the idea that they're like those robots that like just have the little sort of bags of microbeads that they sort of push on something and then they suck the air out of it, so it sort of molds to whatever they're trying to lift. And then they can pick it up, and I just kind of went, "That's really cool. I wonder if that's how ponies work."
Yeah,
They have little vacuum tubes.
How do you suction a hoof full of dust, though?
Yeah, this is true. Mm.
That and it's not magnetic, so you can't have magnetic pony hooves. So
I mean,
that's
sure
really...
you can. Maybe it's, you know, they're implanted at birth with little lodestones.
Well, no, but like the dust isn't magnetic.
It could be. I say we don't know what type of dust it is. It could be magnetic flakes.
Okay, all right, Hoof. What kind of dust is it?
Oh, that's
Break the
definitely.
tie.
Yeah, no, that's definitely dust from the crappy sandy red desert somewhere. It's definitely not magnetic, and this is why you this is why you don't think too deeply about it.
I remember there was
That's the guy who writes stories about pony depression.
There's actually a guy who like quantitatively tried to figure out how much love you would need to overpower Celestia. Like, in numbers, how much love Chrysalis would have to absorb. 5 whole loves.
Yes. And how are you quantifying one love? How many, kettles can you boil with that love?
One actually kind of a random question, throwback question to like when we first started this podcast. You mentioned that you like the more you hear the name "Oh, Hoof-ful of Dust," you kind of regret making it your name. If you could change your name, what would you make it?
This Red Rock.
This Red Rock. Well,
that's from the same. That's from the same stanza from the poem.
Gotcha.
But it's that one's hard to make a horse pun.
Yeah.
You know.
This red pony? Yeah, that doesn't quite work.
Yeah. It doesn't,
Everyone's just going to think you're making a communist reference. At least this Red Rock, people think of Mars.
Yeah, then it's not as obvious where it comes from. I mean, this isn't super obvious where it comes from either, but at least if you would have looked up hey, well, have I heard that thing about a handful of dust before? Then Google would tell you about TSL.
Yay, tangential learning.
I don't even know how my tag got associated with communism.
It's a mystery.
Through the years, a couple of people actually assumed I was communist.
you
See,
and
I
Super
can see that
Both.
now, where communism has kind of become a cool thing to be, but in the past, it was still very, really? You're a communist?
It's a perfectly viable system as long as there is plenty of love and friendship.
Yes.
Instead of Stalin.
Exactly.
Huh.
All All right, we're heading into spicy meme territory, so I think
Yeah.
we're done.
Yeah, I think we should wrap this up.
Yeah, probably. Considering the barcast just started and we lost like what little audience we had.
Seattle's Angels, where everybody's communist and the points don't matter. Bye, everybody.
Bye. I like that we're doing it.